Hi, everyone. It's Diane Evans with stampinwithdiane.com. I'm an independent Canadian Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the interior of British Columbia. So if this is one of your first times joining me, welcome. I'm so glad that you have found me. But the other thing is if you are on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, and that's down below. And then my Facebook groups are also down below. When I do when I put certain files or something towards my in any group, it's always in my Stampin' with Diane Stampers group, which the link is down below as well. So welcome. This is how do they do that? Technique Tuesday. So this happens to be episode number 37. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been doing this for 37 weeks already. And where does the time go, right? In any event, what we're going to be doing is an old technique. Oh heavens, I remember doing this probably about 8-9 years ago, and I haven't really done it much since. So it was funny, I just saw a particular flower and it reminded me of this technique, so that's the reason why we're doing that technique. Hello Pam, hello Marilyn. Yeah, it is snowy, isn't it, here in Kamloops, I tell you. Ugh. And I've already shoveled my driveway once, and I don't want to shovel it again. Hello, Kay. And just in time for me to have to travel, right? But in any event, that's okay. It is what it is. So, did you see this? This is called the floating reinker technique. Excuse me. Like I say, this has been around for quite a few years, and I'm trying to think of the stamp set that it was called. It was a beautiful stamp set. It's got to be, oh, it might even be over 13 years ago that I did this, but in any event, it's it's a great technique, and you'll see a lot of different things that you can do with it. This technique, when you do this, you're not going to have the same results twice. And it does include heat embossing. I told you when I started to introduce the heat embossing, that is going to open up a whole new world of different techniques. It's totally amazing how many different techniques that you can get. Like, I've got a whole pile more that you can do just using embossing. So it's something to really practice at if you have issues with it. Okay, so this works really good with watercolor paper, and it also works really good with the shimmery white paper. I have a bit of an issue with the watercolor paper because I find when you stamp an image onto watercolor paper, for this particular technique, you don't really see, it's hard to make sure that you've stamped it correctly. But the shimmery white works really good. And once you've done the technique, you can see the shimmer on it. So, like I say, tomorrow this will be on my group, and the group link is down below here. And it's the Stamping with Diane's group, not the group for beginners or new stampers. It's the Stamping with Diane group. It's not the VIP group. It's just the group. And at 9:05, I will be posting this file. It'll have a picture of this. This has room for you to do your sample. I'll have the measurements for this card, and if there's special different things that I used on this particular card, I'll make note of that. And then I'll also have the video link to this particular video link. Oh, so Pam says after 1.5 years, she's finally got the heat embossing straight. Well, you know what? It was one of those techniques that I loved right off the bat, and it's something that I just took off with. I just absolutely loved it. I remember probably back in 91, I had gone back for work to London, Ontario, and that's what I picked up from my mom was embossing, an embossing pad. It was called a heat emboss pad and embossing powder. So that's kind of fun. So we're going to use the fragrant flowers. This flower is so perfect to do something like this. You can use not quite as detailed flowers, but it is quite amazing and quite stunning with this particular stamp set. And then, of course, it has the dies that go with it as well. Okay, so let's move this stuff out of the way. Another messy kind of technique. So I'm just going to bring in this is just the backing off of some specialty paper. And I'm just going to use that because I'm using water, and you really need, hello, Debbie from Australia. In any event, what you're going to need is you're going to need a painter's thing. Honestly, you can get this at the dollar store. You don't need to spend too much money with it. And I'm a recycle type person, so I have my dog's water dishes or her dishes from her food. If you have a cat and they have whiskers. Anyways, this is just that, and it just has a tiny bit of water. You're also going to need your water painters. I use one for each color. And honestly, I don't have one for the third color, so I should bring one of those out. I added a third color when I was busy prepping for this. Now, the colors that I have used, hello. The colors that I have used are polished pink, evening evergreen, and soft succulent. Remember, these are the colors that are tending to retire at the end of April. So I'm just giving, and I always do this at the beginning of the year. So if you like these colors, honestly, I would say get them now while you can. All right, so let's bring in my packs that I need for this. So I do have an evening evergreen base. We'll worry about that after. I'm going to just do the part that I need to do for this particular technique with this down, and then we'll remove it and get the water off of the table as well. This is some shimmer white, and you can see the faint shimmer to it, but this tends to work well with water. I've also got a piece of petal pink, and I've used the split card textures on this particular one. I've cut out some of the labels and that sort of stuff, but we'll worry about that once we get to it. This is now going to be the star of the show. So I am embossing with this. I do want to make sure that I've got it embossed, and I've got all the areas embossed. So I'm going to use my Stamparatus. You guys, if you haven't been using your Stamparatus, bring it out, dust it off, and start using it. These are types of techniques, even though you might do it just once, one card, you want to make sure that it's a big stamp is the best to do for in your Stamparatus. All right, so I'm just going to see if that's going to fit on there. Just going to pull that over a bit. We're going to put our magnet. I don't use the two magnets. I find sometimes they go together and they might break. And I also use duct tape on mine so that it works okay. All right, so let's just see if that's going to fit on there. Whoops, that part's not going to. So, I'm going to kind of put this on a bit of an angle because I do want that piece. I'd used that previously, so look at that. What I should have done was maybe put this up at the top. So let's just put this up at the top, and then we'll start working with it from there. Let's try that again. And this is just it's actually a piece that's 3.5 inches wide. And then I just decided to just start, I cut it for previous ones. Of course, we are embossing with this. So we are going to use our embossing buddy. Now, this is probably one of the hardest ways to do heat embossing, and that's white on white, but we're going to be using white. Now, see here, it goes and it says, stamping image with Versamark and heat emboss with white embossing powder. Further on down, variations are you could change your embossing powder. I like the white look to begin with. So let me just go in. I've done it with the embossing buddy. I'm just going to get this good and inked up with the Versamark. Remember, we want to make sure that we get a really good image on here. Coming in with my Chucky. If any of you are asking about a Chucky, just go on my YouTube channel, look up under the most amazing tool, and it's called a Chucky, Chuckie. And there's a video there, very quick video on how to make your own out of recycled goods. So then I'm just going to take this up to the light to make sure I've got all these little things there. I'm going to come back in, and I think I'm going to do that just a bit more. All right, so like I say, this is the floating reinker technique. All right, so I've got that done. Now let's go with our embossing powder. And like I say, I'm using white. You could use gold. You could use black even for that matter. I like it with the white, especially when you want kind of a dainty type flower. When I use this bin for my embossing powder because I find that, and then I can just use cardstock. If you have a spoon in there, it gets staticky. And honestly, then it goes all over the place. All right, so let's just put the lid back on that. And we're going to heat set that. Now, like I say, you can kind of see here, see the image there. Now what we want to do is we want to heat emboss that. And so now you've got embossing down pat. Now it's the white embossing that you want to do, white on white. So again, I don't move it like this. I just start at one end. We'll just get this started and it'll go really, really quickly once it's started. Very, very important that you get this all embossed, as it is anytime that you do embossing. But see, you can see where it's done and where it's not done because it's quite a dull finish until it's embossed. And then I usually just take it back up to my light and make sure that I've got it all embossed. If there's any areas that are white or anything like that, it doesn't work very well. Now, the other part is you could go ahead now and cut this out. And, you know, honestly, I think I will go and I'm going to use one of my images that I've already cut out. Just because for this particular tutorial, if this is not cut out now, I would have to run it through the cut and emboss machine and it still would be a bit damp. So some things could happen. I'm not sure what could happen with it. Now, this is the part that is called the floating. So all you're going to do is go and dab some water. Now you can see that this water kind of pools. And this is where all the flour is. It pools on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm using a specific brush. Just going to dip it into this here. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to do this and see how it starts to float. And that's where the floating technique comes. And if it starts getting dry, you definitely want to make sure that you get it wet. So I could come in here, wet this up some more. But see how it's sort of floating, and it's also, the embossing powder is making it repel off of there. So this is a little hard to see, but we can put some more water on there. And then go back in with the reinker and bring that back in. Now, what you can also do is once you've done this, and I've just got to check this out to see if I've gone all the way to the flowers, which I haven't. So we're just going to get that, come back in with the reinker, and it just sort of floats around. Just like that. Now, if I want to, I can also go in and get some darker colors in the middle there. So we can go just a bit darker here. And it just floats around. Now we do also have these buds that have some water. So we want to put those and re-ink and get it floating on there as well. Like I say, I've got to see where that flower is. There we go. Just like that. So then it just sort of repels. Now, if you want more on there, you can just keep going back in and dabbing a little bit. And this saturates the paper quite a bit. So then, and another good thing to have on hand is some paper towel. And I know down in Australia they have a different name for paper towel. All right, so let's just go back in and just get a tiny bit more over here. And like I say, where I go put this in, it's going to get a little bit darker. All right. Then let's go in now, and we can now do another color. And we're going to come in, and there's leaves on this particular image. So what I want to do, and this has got some color on it, so I just want to come in and see this. This is just a tiny bit here. And this is soft succulent, believe it or not. Let's put some water on here. And like I say, we just want that to kind of go in there like that. So we've kind of got those colors. And this is kind of blotchy. So we could just sort of paint that. But then what I want is a tiny bit more of the evening evergreen kind of in the middle. So we're giving like a two-tone type green leaf. And I could do the same, but there isn't really a pink that goes really, really well with the petal pink. So again, like I say, I'm going to come in, put some more water. Let's get this more water so that the ink floats. We want to be careful that we don't get those leaves into the flowers. So there's your floating reinker. Let me come back in here and let's do a tiny bit more of this pink in here. And like I say, this is polished pink and soft succulent and that. So there you go. So we can go a little bit darker in the middle again. And you can just keep adding some different colors because your flowers are going to be a little bit darker in the middle. And like I say, that is just floating on there. So there's your, whoops. Yeah, and sometimes you can just go in and brush some of this just so you get that. And then I see that we've got a stem there. And that basically is your floating reinkers. If you have more space in between your flowers, you're going to have more of a floating effect. So I'm going to remove that. And let's get rid of this piece here. And let's also get rid of my water. There we go. So like I say, totally different on there. Kitchen rolls. All right, so then on here, you can pick up the colors, add more to the water painters, and you can spray more water on there. I didn't even use my spritzer on here. You can do whatever you want on there. So let's go. Now, in order to make this dry, just because I want it dry for this to go onto this card, we're going to turn it over and we're going to hold this, that is in the back, and we're going to take it on the low heat, because the new ones have the 2 heats. You don't want to overcook that embossing powder, right? Or else it's not going to show up. say more space is good, but I just think this fragrant flowers are amazing. So I did the split card textures. I've got that. I also have a piece of, where are my card pieces here? Evening Evergreen, and I have that scored as a regular one. So a regular card, which is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4.25. Let's fold that into the mountain, exactly the opposite way of what you think it would go. Let's go ahead and put that on there. And then this piece is just going to go on here. Now I want to put some of this Evening Evergreen ribbon on. I know this ribbon is going to retire, so I want to put that on here. So I'm wrapping it around. I'm going to use a glue dot because, again, I can't find my tweezers. I need 2 pairs of tweezers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my glue dots. Let's see. We'll have that as our 3rd finger, right? So just like that. There. Now I'm hoping that that's going to be long enough. I'm thinking it will be. And then I'll just come in and trim this off. Then I want to show you something else that you can do with this ribbon. This ribbon, like I say, I know is retiring. So before I put that on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to cut my ribbon in half because I want it like a double bow. That, and then here. So if you like this, give me the thumbs up. Make sure that you share my video. I really do appreciate that. Subscribe. There we go. So now that's kind of split up. And then what you're going to do is we are going to take this like this and separate them. Now you realize I'm doing this back upside down. Always when you tie a bow on a piece like this, you're going to do it upside down. So I'm just going to bring that through. There we go. And it's just going to go like this. And that's just going to give it a little bit more of a bow. Does that make any sense? Then we can trim that part off. Now I want to put this up here like this. And then of course we need to have our sentiment on there. Now I also went and I cut some of these leaves out. These are from the Fragrant Flowers dies. And I'm hoping that that'll work out okay on here. And this banner is also from that as well. So we can also move this down just a bit. I know I've got that glue dot there, but I can just pick that up and move it. There we go. Now I want to go, I think the only way that I can get this to look any good is just to emboss with that. And I'm going to put the thanks on here. And I'm hoping that this is straight. I didn't test this. Well, thanks, Mishwari. So, like I say, we have that. And now I can come in with my embossing powder. Now that is funny. And I know it's here. That's too funny. All right. me, this is going to go on here. But where did I put my embossing powder? Now, come on, that's just plain ridiculous. We just had that there. Somebody had said that when they go with an embossing, or if I lose something, somebody has to go do something. I don't know. Like I say, I know I move it out of the way so that I don't. There. That's to my left. Oh, over here. That would be over here. Over here. In any event, it was off to my right. This pink and green, this polished pink and this evening evergreen is amazing together. All right, so let's go and heat set that. Like I say, embossing is probably the one technique. You learn how to do it, and you're going to, there's so many different techniques to do with embossing. So, and then let's go. It's going to go on here. I'm going to put this like this on here. Now, I am going to also put this over top of that. And what that's going to do is come out behind it. So, you know those bits that are on your embossing or your dimensionals? These are my favorite bits, and usually they're the first bits that are off. You're just going to cut this. And we're going to cut 2 of them. It's probably too long. And then I can save those 2 pieces for later. And what we're doing is I'm putting these dimensionals on either side of the bow so that they don't turn, you know, it doesn't flip. Because if I put it on the bow, it will flip. So we'll just put those over in this little bin here. And this one. Now, so here, now I'm just going to actually pull that over just a bit more on the card. There we go. And then I can go ahead and put this on here. That's going to be okay there. And then let's go ahead and glue this. You notice when I did put this particular thing on, I made sure that I had the 1/8 of an inch around when I die cut that. And that's so that I can get this glue on here. We're also going to want to let this set for just a tiny little bit so that that glue doesn't ooze out. So while we're doing that, I do have a piece to go on the inside. I'm not going to do too much decorating on the inside, but I'm going to come in with my polished pink. And there is one stamp. We could do a flower, but I thought this would be kind of a cool sort of thing to put into the inside. We won't know until I do it, right? So I'm not going to overdo it because that's when I ruin a card. Oh, thank you, Pam. Like I say, I'm trying to think of other stamp sets that'll go really good with it. I'm not sure which ones. I'll take a look. All right, so let's go ahead and put this on here now. We're going to pop this up. This is a little wet still. I'm thinking that maybe what I'll do is I'll let it dry more. A little bit. Maybe I'll just come in again with my heat set thing. And heat gun. Like I say, I don't want to overheat it. Whoops, we want it on the lower heat or the lower temperature. Because if I do that, what it'll do is it'll over cook it, and then it won't be raised up. Because you can overcook your... There, that's better. So I think I'll do it this way. So let's go in with our dimensionals. And I don't think we want to scrimp too much on these dimensionals. We want to make sure we have them in the middle as well. Are there any questions at all? One here. Another one there. I know there's quite a few on there, but honestly, I think this card needs to have that many on there. Oops. So let's just go and put this on these buds up here. And whoops. All right. Let's take that off then. Whoops. See, with it being wet, these may not come off as good. Oh, thanks. I know these are somebody's perfect colors. So that's another reason why you want that to be good and dry, because this is not coming off as well. So I have to be very careful when I take these off. Can't take it off with take your pick tool, or else it'll take them off completely. Whoops. Oops. Now it's sticking to my nail. Like I say, you want to be very careful that you've got it dry. So, like I say, I did have one here that was dry. It's just not coming off. Put it there. And right there. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and put this on here. Hues of Happiness would work. Yes, of course it would. Yeah. So just like this. Let's go ahead and put these on as well. I am putting them close to where the leaves are on here, and then I'll just put one in here as well. Put a lot of those dimensionals on, so they kind of, let's see, don't want too much of that poking out. And then, of course, we have to embellish it. And I thought the perfect embellishments for this particular one, see, this is another one that was quite a bit lighter using the same colors, but it is dry. I went in and added more pink on these ones, so that helped that quite a bit. Right, so I'm using my opal rounds, the In Color opal rounds. These are also retiring at the end of this Stampin' Up catalog. And I think we'll use the Evening Evergreen ones. I only have 3 of those left anyways. Let's go ahead and put one up here. Here as well. I'll go in, put that. I'll just put this on the inside. You could go, thanks for everything. Thanks for being there. It could be any kind of a thank you card. So this piece is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. That's my favorite size for the inside of a card as well. All right. So there's the floating reinkers tutorial or technique. Like I say, this one had, you could see where the green got into the flowers, where I was a little bit more careful with this, but that is definitely, it's quite wet. So, all right. So tomorrow at 9:05, I will have this with the picture of this in there. And if I don't have it there, just make sure I'm out at 6:00 or 6:30 in the morning for an appointment tomorrow morning. So hopefully it'll stop snowing so that I'll get out. But anyways, that's our floating reinkers. If you do have any ideas at all, please reach out to me and tag me in, if it's a Facebook thing, or if you put a message on to the YouTube, is make sure, or personal message me, that's fine as well. But to give me, if there's certain techniques that you want to do, remember that this will be in my Stampers group, which is right down about there. And it's not the beginning one, it's a Stamping with Diane Stampers group. And it's under the files section. So there will be 37 tomorrow, but there's already 36 different techniques in there. You can download any of those files, put it in a 3-ring binder, and then that way you've got it there for your reference. Awesome. So like I say, I hope you enjoyed that. Tomorrow is Mystery Wednesday. So tomorrow I will post 3 clues. They could be anything. I could say flowers, I could go reinkers, and I could go green. And then that would be my mystery challenge, right? So I'm just trying to get you to use your stuff, is all I'm trying to get you to do. Now, you have up until midnight my time tonight to get any of the past challenges, the past mystery challenge, past sketch challenge in. So if you do live in Canada, you could possibly win a stamp set. And if you live outside of Canada, I could send you a tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed that. Have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow, 3:00 Pacific time. That's 3:00 in the afternoon. Thanks. Bye for now.